Earlier this month, Joker followed the follow-up to Joker, the first R-rated movie ever to reach $1 billion, dropped in theaters, and the reception was not kind at all. Reviews were dreadful. It got a D cinema score, the worst ever for a comic book movie, and it's looking to make about 1/5 what the first movie made, like $200 million globally versus over $1 billion that the original film made. And that's with its budget being 3 or 4 times as much as that of the original film. So across the board, this movie has failed with audiences and critics. But it is a movie that also has a few fans that love it for how out there in left field it is. And one of those people that absolutely loved Joker 2 was Quentin Tarantino. Now, one of the things that's so fun about Quentin Tarantino is that his takes are so unique. Like, he doesn't follow any particular path, and he always finds things in movies, whether he hates a movie that a lot of other people love, or he loves a movie that other people absolutely hated. He has an interesting perspective. So I wanted to dive into specifically what he had to say about Joker 2. And basically, he appeared on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast. This is the guy that wrote the book American Psycho. He has a podcast. It's behind his paywall on Patreon, so I'm not able to play specific clips from it, but there's a lot of quotes in this article, and it's just such a different perspective, and it's such a Tarantino perspective on a movie. So we'll just kind of dive into it, and I'll pause every once in a while to kind of break down what I have to say about it. But he says, I really, really liked it. Really, a lot. Like, tremendously. Even right there. What does Tarantino say about Joker 2? I liked it tremendously. What a big word to describe your like for a movie that most people hated. But I thought it was going to be an arm's length intellectual exercise that ultimately I wouldn't think worked like a movie, but that I would appreciate it for what it is. And I'm just nihilistic enough to kind of enjoy a movie that doesn't quite work as a movie, or that's like a big giant mess to some degree. So I went in, I don't think I'm going to like this because I'm nihilistic and I love things that are these big messes. And I didn't find it an intellectual exercise. I really got caught up into it. I really liked the musical sequences. I got really caught up. I thought the more banal the songs were, the better they were. I find myself listening to the lyrics of For Once in My Life in a way I never have before. So he went into it with kind of one set of expectations of like, I thought it was going to be a mess. And then I actually got really caught up in it. And it wasn't all that intellectual. And it was actually like the songs, I dug the musical sequences. So even the stuff that people were like, Joker or musical? What on earth are we doing? To him, that was like, yeah. He's like, and as more people are like, these things don't even make sense. Why are these even in here? He's like, right. They don't make any sense. Isn't that great? Tarantino, Quentin Tarantino. And then it continues on. He starts comparing it to Natural Born Killers. Now, if you don't know, Natural Born Killers is one of a handful of movies from the 90s that was written by Quentin Tarantino, but not directed by him. So basically, he was just trying to get into filmmaking. He started writing all these scripts in the early 90s, but nobody knew who he was. And so he had these scripts that were just kind of sitting there on the shelf, and they end up going off to fantastic directors. Tony Scott for True Romance, and then Oliver Stone for Natural Born Killers. So there's the directed Tarantino films that he wrote and directed, and then there's a few of these other ones that he wrote that he didn't direct, and he just stopped doing that once he became Quentin Tarantino. But there was a few of them that existed before that, and one of them was Natural Born Killers, and that's kind of the one that I feel like he's thrown under the bus the most and been like, that's not what I would have done. That's not what they changed my script. Oliver Stone has his own Oliver Stone vision, and that's not the movie I wanted to make. And then, of course, probably From Dusk Till Dawn's the one that's the most that he's like, yeah, that's my movie, because he literally acted in it and was making the movie with his friend Robert Rodriguez. Anyway, so Natural Born Killers, the one that he's like, I didn't really like what Oliver Stone did with it. That's the movie that he compared Joker Follow You Do to. He says, as much as the first one was indebted to Taxi Driver, this seems pretty indebted to Natural Born Killers, which I wrote. That's the Natural Born Killers I would have dreamed of seeing. So once again, to understand that the reference there, you have to understand he wrote Natural Born Killers. Oliver Stone directed it. Tarantino's like, I didn't really like he had all this other stuff he wanted to do with it that I didn't want to do. He says, that is the Natural Born Killers I have dreamed of seeing. As the guy who created Mickey and Mallory, I loved what they did with it. So once again, this is a perspective. I haven't seen any reviews on the internet. Like, I've been all over the discussion for Joker 2. Naturally, because that's what I talk movies way too much and love to hear other people's opinions on it. And that's the movie everyone was talking about. No one was drawing that comparison. Like, of course, Bonnie and Clyde a little bit, but it's a courtroom drama and it's a musical. Quentin Tarantino, as the guy that wrote Natural Born Killers, his brain's just wired a little bit differently. And of course, he's invested in that. And when you think about road trip, broken romance, criminals, and things like that, like Natural Born Killers is one of the ones in the conversation there, because was the one Oliver Stone directed and Quentin Tarantino wrote. That's the one that his brain goes to. And we never saw his version of that relationship, that what he wanted to do with it. And then he watched Joker 2 and he went, there it is. There's the weird, toxic, criminal romance that bad romance that I always wanted to see. Pun intended. He said, I loved the direction he took. I mean, the whole movie was the fever dream of Mickey Knox. So there's even an interesting little tidbit of that. Like, you kind of like, now I want to rewatch Natural Born Killers, which I need to do anyway, because I only watched like once 20 years ago, and go, all right, watching this and think Tarantino wanted this to be more like Joker 2. Huh. That's the fun of cinema, and that's the fun of hearing different perspectives. Like, I don't watch other people's reviews. I don't read them wanting to hear someone say my opinions in their voice. That's, unless you have an awesome voice, that's not really interesting, or I don't need to be validated by someone else saying what I already think about it. Like, a lot of times in the comment section of my reviews, my rankings are like, L take, in particular on TikTok, L take, what are you talking about? You're wrong. People say that sort of stuff all of the time. And I'm like, wait, did you just watch the ranking wanting to hear your opinion in my voice? That's weird. The fun of online discussion is getting different perspectives and seeing things in a new light, seeing a movie for a second time through this other person's lens and worldview. And in the case of this one, it's almost like seeing two different movies in a different perspective, because it's Quentin Tarantino, one of the most celebrated directors of the last 30 years. And there's a few more movies that are his, but not really. And we get a better idea of what this Elseworld version of Natural Born Killers could have been because of Todd Phillips' Joker 2. A connection that no one else, like, I haven't seen that connection by anyone else. But Tarantino, as the guy that wrote it, he put those things together. That's interesting and fun. That's the type of movie discussion that I like to see and be a part of. Like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. What an interesting direction to take that. He continues on. Top of all that, I thought it was really funny. I saw it in an almost empty IMAX theater. I was laughing without bothering everybody. I know I'm laughing at scenes that other people wouldn't be laughing at. So beyond that, I think there's this sense in which he thought it was funnier than maybe it was, or he was laughing at things that maybe weren't intended as jokes, or other people took them differently. But he just took it as this like really weird, dark comedy and felt unrestricted the way that he watched it. And so he's just laughing. Kind of want to know what specific things is he talking about? Like, is it him finding jokes and things that weren't meant as jokes? Is that just his truly subjective experience? Or is it just like he's the one guy that got it? What exactly is he referring to there? I'm kind of curious about that. Then he starts going into the performances. talks about praising the performance in there. And he says that Phoenix gives one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life in this movie. So absolutely pouring a bucket of praise on Joaquin Phoenix. Now, that's not surprising. Joaquin Phoenix is widely regarded as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Won an Oscar. Like, not terribly surprising. And of all the criticisms of the film, one of them wasn't like, oh, Joaquin Phoenix sucks this time. People are like, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is great at it. Of course, he's awesome in a movie that most people did not think was great the way that Tarantino thinks it's great. And then he continues on. And this is where you get into the real wild Tarantino perspective. And this is one that is a little bit in line with what other people have said, but also kind of like latching on to like, why did Tarantino love this movie? And it's once again, just kind of that bonkers sort of thing. And you wonder if it's a little bit of like, this is just if you've been in the studio system, had fans, it's the sort of take that it's tough for a normal person to understand and care about or whatever. And so him as a director, he just kind of really resonates with this crazy stuff that Todd Phillips did. But he said, the Joker directed the movie. So this is his premise for the film. The whole, like his thesis on Joker 2 is that Todd Phillips decided himself to play the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix is not the Joker. The director is the Joker. And he is going full Joker on Warner Brothers, on his fans, on DC fans. So why did he love this movie? Why was it so funny? And he's laughing out loud the whole time. This is the thing that ties it all together, besides kind of the idea of he liked the musical numbers, or it was his version of Natural Born Killers that he wanted to see. No. The thing that made it so fascinating, it's not an intellectual exercise. It is a big middle finger to anything and everyone, because Todd Phillips took on the role of the Joker himself and burned the studio's money as in this insane thing that Tarantino got a big kick out of. The Joker directed the movie. The entire concept, even, spending the studio's money, he's spending it like the Joker would, all right? So, right, this movie, why on earth does a courtroom drama? This movie has basically two locations, Arkham and the courtroom. There's not much more than that. There's like kind of one action set piece, and it cost $200 million, and everyone was way overpaid. Even just throw like Lady Gaga, let's give her $12 million. Let's throw money at it, just throwing money at everything, burning money like we're the Joker in the Dark Knight. That's Tarantino's premise. Like, isn't that funny? Isn't that great that Todd Phillips went full Joker on Warner Brothers? And then his big surprise gift, the Jack in the Box, when he offers you his hand for a handshake and you get a buzzer with 10,000 volts shooting you, is the comic book geeks. He's saying F you to all of them. So once again, why is the movie awesome? Because it is that F you to everybody. Like, hey, studio, you wanted me to make a movie, the sequel to the $1 billion film that doesn't really make a lot of sense to do a sequel to it? Gotcha, I'm gonna burn all your money. Hey, all of you that loved it because we said we were doing this Joker origin movie, you loved the Joker, you took this thing to $1 billion. Hey, now I'm the Joker and you're getting the joy buzzer and you're gonna die. That's Tarantino's take on all of this. Like, Todd Phillips, he's the Joker, and he got all of you, the studio, the fans, everybody. He's saying F you to the movie's audience. Now, this is once again the perspective that many of us have had, like, why is this movie so aggressively against its own audience? And he's like, right, that's awesome. He's the Joker, and he got all of us. He's saying F you to Hollywood. He's saying F you to anybody who owns any stock at DC and Warner Brothers, which I do have some Warner Brothers stock, so not cool, Todd Phillips. Not cool at all. And then Todd Phillips is the Joker. Un film de Joker. All right, is what it is. He is the Joker. All right, like, that is the fun of a Tarantino review, that you don't really know what you're going to get. So it kind of continues on And it talks about how Tarantino loved the sequel far more than the original, which he found to be one note. Though he praised the last scene, one of the best scenes in the last 20 years. Easily the whole movie was worth it for that. So he just liked the last scene in it, but thought the rest of it was a little bit one note. Okay. Looks like that's the big takeaways from that. So anyway, like I didn't know how long this video was going to be. I just kind of hit record and decided to talk through it as I sort of was reading it for the first time. And yeah, Tarantino. Like I said, that's why I go to the movie space, to hear different perspectives. A movie that I watched and I went, I don't think I really like this, but it is interesting. This is why it's interesting. This is it right here, where there's all of these kind of big blockbusters that maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it, maybe it entertains you, maybe it doesn't. There's not a lot to say about them because there's a safeness, a sameness to them. There's nothing really interesting. And whether you love or hate Joker 2 is interesting. You have a passionate, strong opinion about it, and you can have your own gigantic takeaway from it. So I had what I said in my non-spoiler review, and then in my spoiler review, I went on this whole rabbit trail because of some responses that I got to my non-spoiler review. And so about how the movie's about identity and all this other stuff. And other people love it because for his reasons, other people love it for their own reasons. It actually elicited a response and got people talking. Now, was it wise to give Todd Phillips $200 million to be the Joker and direct this insane thing? Probably not. But it's interesting. Anyway, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.